Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Saltwater Stories. We are so absolutely thrilled you're here with us today.
It is so wonderful to be back. We have a truly incredible journey planned for you today.
We really do. We're going to tell you about something, well, something amazing that lives in the big blue ocean.
But before we tell you exactly who or what we're talking about, we want to try something a little different.
Yeah, we're not just going to read you a list of facts. We want to take you on an adventure.
That's right. So wherever you are right now, maybe you're in the car, maybe you're sitting in your room, we want you to use your imagination. If it's safe to, go ahead and close your eyes.
Okay, imagine you're floating. You're floating in the warm turquoise waters of the Caribbean Sea. It's just the perfect temperature, like a warm bath that never, ever gets cold.
And the sun is shining down from above, sending these little dancing beams of light through the water. You can see them shimmering all around you.
And as you sink just a little bit below the surface, all the sounds of the world above, they just fade away.
Yeah, the cars, the wind, people talking, it's all gone. It's replaced by this soft, rhythmic thrum. It's quiet, but it's busy. It's the sound of life.
You look down, and what you see is this bustling underwater city, a coral reef.
Oh, it's incredible. There are these jagged towers made of limestone and sea fans that are waving hello in the current like they're purple trees.
And there's a traffic jam of neon-colored fish darting everywhere. It's crowded, it's colorful, and it's just a little bit chaotic.
But today, we aren't looking at the whole city. We are looking for one specific resident, a mysterious character that kind of rules this reef.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So this character is an architect that remodels the seafloor, moving rocks and sand to build its own home.
And it's also a warrior. It has a hidden weapon strapped to its back that works like a machine.
A warrior, and a genius that can solve puzzles and even use tools to get its dinner.
Right. And it doesn't swim like a normal fish. It doesn't wiggle its tail. It just sort of hovers like a spaceship or maybe a helicopter.
A spaceship fish? Oh, and it wears war paint. We're talking electric blue stripes right across its face. It looks like it's ready for battle, but also, ready for a fashion show.
Any guesses what it could be?
Listeners, get ready to meet the star of today's story. With a burst of enthusiasm, it is the queen triggerfish.
The queen triggerfish, or as scientists call her, Balistes vetula. She is truly the sovereign of the reef.
I just love that name, queen triggerfish. It sounds so powerful. But before we get into the science of why she's a queen or why she's so smart, we have to talk about the trigger part, because that is the coolest party trick in the entire ocean.
It really is. And to explain it, let's tell a quick story. Let's imagine a specific fish. We can call her Queenie.
Okay, I like it. So Queenie is this beautiful, colorful fish, and she's swimming around the reef. She's having a great day. But the sun is starting to set.
And if you know anything about the ocean, you know that when the sun goes down, the neighborhood gets a little dangerous.
It's a little sketchy.
Exactly. The sharks come out, the big moray eels, they wake up and they are looking for dinner. And Queenie, well, she looks pretty delicious. She's a nice, substantial meal.
So she needs a safe place to sleep where she won't get eaten.
She does. And she spots this tiny little hole in the coral rock. And to us looking at it, it seems way too small. Like there is no way she can fit in there.
It looks like a trap, right? If she goes in, isn't a hungry eel just going to pull her right back out?
That is exactly what the eel is hoping for. So Queenie swims backward into this hole. She wiggles and wiggles until she is wedged in tight against the rock walls. Now, here comes the magic.
Okay, what happens?
On her back, she has a fin, but it's not a soft, floppy fin like a goldfish has. It's a hard, sharp spine made of actual bone.
And she pops that spine straight up. Click. It jams into the roof of the hole.
But wait, there's more to it. If she just held it up with her muscles, she'd eventually get tired, right? Like if you tried to hold a heavy box over your head for hours, your arms would start to shake.
Right, a strong predator could probably just push it down.
Exactly. So she has a second, smaller spine right behind the big one. And this little spine slides forward and it locks the big spine in place.
Whoa, wait, it locks it like a deadbolt on a door.
Exactly like a deadbolt on a door. Or when you open a folding table and that little metal ring slides over the joint to keep the leg from collapsing.
That's a great analogy.
It's a mechanical lock. Think of it like a wedge that a rock climber uses. Once that second spine clicks into place, the main spine is locked. It cannot move. You could push on it with all your might and it wouldn't budge.
So the predator, let's say a big, scary moray eel, comes sniffing around. He sees Queenie's tail sticking out of the hole. He thinks, aha, easy snack.
He grabs her tail and he tries to pull. but she is stuck like a rock. She isn't using any energy. The lock is doing all the work for her.
The eel pulls and pulls, but nothing happens.
He eventually just gives up. He realizes it's impossible and swims away to find an easier meal.
And Queenie is safe all night. And then in the morning,
In the morning, she simply pulls down that little second spine, the trigger, and the big spine unlocks and folds down nice and flat, and she swims out.
that is how she got her name, the triggerfish. That's just brilliant.
It is a living transformer.
And that is our mission for today. We are going to explore the life of this armored, intelligent, and just beautiful fish. We are going to find out why she is built like a tank, how she solves math problems to eat her dinner, and why she is one of the best moms in the whole ocean.
There is so much to uncover. It's going to be a fascinating journey.
So let's start with her look. We mentioned the name Queen Triggerfish, but you have the scientific name too, right? Ballistes vetula. That sounds very, very fancy.
It does sound fancy, but even that scientific name tells a whole story. The first part, ballistes, comes from the Roman word ballista.
A ballista, that sounds familiar. Wasn't that a weapon? Like from history class?
It was a giant ancient crossbow or a catapult used in wars a long, long time ago. These were huge machines used to launch arrows or stones across a battlefield.
Okay, so why name a fish after a giant crossbow?
Because that locking spine on her back looks exactly like the trigger mechanism of that weapon.
That is so cool. She's named after a siege weapon. I am the siege weapon fish. I love it. But what about the second part? Vitula. That sounds a little different.
This one is a little less complimentary. Vitula is Latin for old wife or little old woman.
Wait, what? We go from giant crossbow to little old woman? Why? That seems like a really strange jump.
Well, there are a few theories. Scientists and sailors have been trying to figure this one out for centuries. One theory is about the lines on her face.
The war paint we were talking about.
Yes. Around her eyes, she has these fine, radiating blue lines. And to the scientists back in the 1700s, they thought those looked like crow's feet. You know, wrinkles.
Okay, so they thought she looked like she had wrinkles around her eyes. That's a bit rude, honestly.
It is a little harsh. She's trying to look fierce with her war paint, and they're calling her wrinkled.
Right, what's another theory?
Another theory is about her skin. Triggerfish skin isn't slimy like a trout or a goldfish. If you touched a trout, it would be slippery. But a triggerfish is really rough and tough.
Rough how?
So rough that back in the day, before we had hardware stores and sandpaper, people used to dry the skin of these fish and use it to scrub their floors or polish wood.
No way. Sandpaper fish. You're telling me people used a fish to build furniture?
They absolutely did. It's called shagreen. So the theory goes that the texture felt rough, like the hard-working, calloused hands of an elder who has worked hard their whole life.
Okay, that makes a little more sense. It's not an insult. It's about being tough.
Exactly. But my favorite theory is about the sound she makes.
She makes a sound. Fish usually don't talk.
She does. When fishermen would catch these fish, or when they feel threatened, they tend to make this grunting, grumbling noise.
Grumbling.
Yeah, and the legend has it that it sounded like a grumpy old wife scolding someone for doing something silly.
That is hilarious. So she's a grumbling, wrinkled, sandpaper-skinned crossbow. What a combination.
Exactly. But despite the grumpy name, she is incredibly beautiful. Let's really paint a picture for our listeners. Imagine a dinner plate, a big round one.
Okay, got it.
Now turn it on its side so it's standing up tall on its edge. That is the shape of a queen triggerfish. We call that laterally compressed.
And why is she shaped like a sideways plate? Wouldn't it be easier to be round like a ball or something?
It's all about the neighborhood she lives in. The coral reef is full of tight squeezes, narrow cracks, and little alleyways between the rocks. Being thin and tall allows her to slip through those cracks effortlessly.
Oh, that makes sense. If she were wide like a pufferfish, she'd get stuck in the doorway.
You get stuck everywhere. And the colors?
Yeah.
You have to talk about the colors. You said war paint.
It did. It looks like it.
It's a masterpiece. Her back is usually this mix of purple and green and turquoise. This helps her blend in with the water and the reef below when a bird is looking down from the sky.
Camouflage from above.
Right. But her belly is this bright sunset orange or yellow.
And the face. The face is the best part.
Yeah. Yes. 2 electric blue stripes right across her face. One looks like a little mustache above her mouth, and the other is a ring right around her lips. It makes her look so serious and regal, like she's wearing a mask for a royal ball.
And her eyes are way up high on her head. Right. They aren't near her mouth at all. They're practically on top of her forehead.
And that is a very, very important safety feature. We'll talk about what she eats later, but let's just say her food, it fights back.
Ooh, intriguing.
So having her eyes high up keeps them away from sharp spines and flying debris when she's crunching down on dinner. But the coolest thing about her eyes is their superpower.
Superpower. Like X-ray vision.
Not X-ray vision, but something just as cool. Independent rotation.
Ooh, like a chameleon.
Exactly like a chameleon. Most animals, like us, our eyes move together. If you look left, both of your eyes go left.
Right.
But the queen triggerfish can have one eye looking forward, scanning for a crab to eat, and the other eye swiveled completely backward to watch for a shark that might be sneaking up behind her.
That is amazing. It's like having a built-in rear-view mirror while you're driving. She can watch 2 movies at once.
She can, and it creates a huge challenge for her brain, too. Imagine trying to play a video game while also reading a book and understanding both of them perfectly at the same time. Her brain has to process 2 completely different images at once.
Wow. That's a sign of how smart these fish really are.
It absolutely is.
So she's got the looks, the name, and the crazy eyes. But who is she related to? Does she have any famous cousins in the ocean?
She definitely does. She belongs to a group of fish called the order Tetraodontiforms. And that is a huge mouthful of a word, isn't it?
Can we break that down? Tetraodontiforms?
It basically means the 4-toothed shapes, but I like to call them the order of the oddballs.
The oddballs. I like that.
Yes. If the ocean was a school, these would be the eccentric kids in the art club who dress a little differently than everyone else. This group includes pufferfish, boxfish, which are, they're literally shaped like cubes. And do you remember that giant floating frisbee we talked about a few episodes ago?
The ocean sunfish. The mola mola. We have a whole episode on them. The biggest, weirdest fish in the sea.
That's the one. The giant, goofy ocean sunfish is a cousin to our queen triggerfish.
I can actually see the resemblance now. They are both weird shapes, and they both have those tiny little mouths.
They do. This whole family decided that being fast wasn't their thing. Most fish, like a tuna or a swordfish, they're built for speed. They are torpedoes.
Sleek and fast.
But the triggerfish and her cousins, they traded that speed for armor and strange geometry. They're built like tanks, not race cars.
I love that. I don't need to run away because I'm a tank.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, let's talk about how she moves, because you said earlier she hovers like a spaceship. How does a tank hover?
This is one of my favorite things about them. Most fish swim by wiggling their tail back and forth, right? Like a dog wagging its tail, swish, 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 swish.
Or wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. That's how you draw a fish swimming.
The queen triggerfish barely uses her tail at all for normal swimming. Instead, she uses the fin on her top, that's the dorsal fin, and the fin on her bottom, the anal fin. She waves them in these perfect, rippling S shapes.
So the top and bottom fins are just waving back and forth like ribbons in the wind.
Exactly. It's called ballistiform locomotion, and it gives her incredible precision. She can hover in place perfectly still, just staring at a rock. She can spin in a circle on a dime. She can even swim backward.
Swimming backward seems very useful if you live in a cave or a tight space.
It is essential.
Yeah.
Think of a shark. A shark is like a jet plane. It's fast, but it can't stop on a dime, and it definitely can't fly backward. If a shark gets stuck in a dead-end tunnel, it's in big trouble.
But the queen triggerfish is different.
She's like a helicopter. She can maneuver into the tiniest space to find food or hide and then just back right out, no problem.
But what if she does need to run? Like if a really fast shark shows up and she's caught out in the open, does she have a plan for that?
She has a turbo mode. If she really needs to sprint, she clamps those waving fins flat against her body to be more aerodynamic, so she looks like a little missile.
Streamlined.
Perfectly streamlined. And then she uses that big crescent-shaped tail for a powerful burst of speed. She can't keep it up for long. She's definitely a sprinter, not a marathon runner, but she's got a good burst to get to the nearest hiding spot.
Okay, so she moves like a helicopter with a turbo button. Now, you mentioned earlier that her skin is like sandpaper.
Mm-hmm.
Let's unpack that a little more. Why sandpaper?
It's all about armor. Her skin is covered in something called scutes. Instead of flimsy little scales that flake off like you see on a sardine, she has these thick, diamond-shaped plates that interlock like a puzzle.
Like chainmail. Like a knight in shining armor.
Exactly like chainmail. It's tough and leathery. This protects her from the sharp coral she sleeps in, because coral is basically sharp rock, but it also protects her from her food.
Which we're getting to.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned, it's so tough that humans used it to sandwood.
They did.
That is just wild. Imagine going to the hardware store and buying a fish to sand your deck. Excuse me, do you have this in a coarse grit? No, but we have a large triggerfish. It's unbelievable.
It really shows you just how tough she is. And she has one more defense mechanism we touched on briefly. Her voice.
The grumbling.
The grumbling. But it's not just grumbling when she's caught. She actively plays the drums underwater.
She plays the drums. How? Does she have little drumsticks?
She uses her body. She has a special membrane. It's like the skin of a drum right under her pectoral fin, which is the fin on her side.
Okay.
She rubs her fin against it to make a loud thump, thump, thump sound.
Like thumping your chest or knocking on a door really fast.
That's a great way to think about it. And she uses her swim bladder.
Yeah.
It's the air balloon inside her body that helps her float to amplify the sound. It's like how the hollow wooden body of a guitar makes the strings sound louder.
Why is she drumming? Is she trying to start a band?
Usually it's a warning. She's saying, back off. This is my house. I am big and scary. And it's very effective. If you're a diver and you hear that thumping sound, you know the queen is not happy with you.
So she's a tank, a helicopter, and a drummer. But she's also a hunter. And this, you said, is where things get really interesting. You called her the smartest hunter. Why?
It comes down to her diet. She is what we call a durophage.
Durophage. That sounds like a dinosaur name. And here comes the mighty durophage.
It translates to eater of hard things. The queen triggerfish eats the stuff that no one else in the reef wants to touch. She eats crabs with hard shells, clams, and her absolute favorite food, the long-spined sea urchin.
Ooh, sea urchins. Those are the black spiky balls, right? The ones you do not want to step on at the beach.
The very same. Now imagine a pincushion the size of a grapefruit, and it's covered in venomous needles that are 6 to 10 inches long, and these needles are super sharp. They can go right through a diver's wetsuit.
That sounds like a terrible snack. How do you even eat that without turning your face into a pincushion?
That is the problem. A shark can't eat it, a big grouper can't eat it. They would just get a mouthful of painful spikes. But the queen triggerfish, she has a plan. She uses physics and tool use.
Physics, like science class physics.
Absolutely.
Fish.
She uses a strategy that scientists call the blow and flip. Here's how it works. Step 1. She hovers vertically right over the urchin, pointing her nose straight down at it.
Okay, she's aiming.
Step 2. She fills her mouth with water and then shoots a powerful jet of water, like a fire hose, right at the sand just next to the urchin.
She has a water gun in her mouth.
She does. The scientific term is hydraulic jetting, and this jet of water creates turbulence. It hits the sand and the water rushes underneath the urchin. Because the urchin is round and relatively light, the water current just flips it upside down.
Uh-huh. And the bottom of the urchin doesn't have spines.
Exactly.
Ah.
The bottom, where its little mouth is soft and vulnerable. Once it's flipped, she dives in and attacks the soft belly before the urchin can right itself.
That is genius. I mean, it's not just biting, it's a multi-step plan. She has to understand how water moves. She has to aim properly.
It is a learned skill. Baby triggerfish have to practice this over and over. They don't just know how to do it perfectly when they are born. It's tool use, really. She is using water as a tool to access food she couldn't get otherwise.
And I've heard she uses that water gun for other things, too. Not just flipping urchins.
She does. She is a bit of a landscape architect. She swims around the sandy bottom near the reef and just blasts jets of water into the sand.
Why? Is she just making a mess for fun?
She's treasure hunting. She knows that delicious worms and clams and other little creatures are hiding just under the surface of the sand. By blasting the sand away, she uncovers them.
So she's basically using a leaf blower on the ocean floor to find hidden treasures.
That's a perfect way to put it. And this is actually really important for the whole ecosystem. It's a process called bioturbation.
Bioturbation.
By turning over the sand, she mixes oxygen into it, which helps tiny animals and bacteria live there. She's like a farmer tilling the soil to make the garden grow better for everyone.
She's gardening. That is so cool. Now, you mentioned she has to learn these skills. Does that mean she's actually smart? Because people always say fish have a 3-second memory. Is that true?
Oh, that is a total myth. One of the biggest myths about fish. They have much, much better memories than that. And the triggerfish is the ultimate proof that it's wrong. These fish are the Einsteins of the reef.
The Einsteins. That's some high praise.
It is. Scientists have done tests in labs where triggerfish have to solve complex puzzles to get a food reward, and they remember the solution days or even weeks later. But on the reef, we see it in their cognitive maps.
Cognitive maps. What's that like? She has a Google map in her head.
That's exactly what it is. She memorizes her entire territory. She knows exactly where the best patches of food are, where her favorite sleeping hole is, where the local cleaning station is, and where all her neighbors live.
That's incredible.
If you were to catch a triggerfish and move her 100 yards away, she can find her way back home using landmarks like specific rocks or coral heads that she's memorized.
That is seriously impressive.
Mm.
And I've heard divers say these fish actually look at them differently than other fish do.
They do. It's that independent eye movement again. When a triggerfish looks at you, she is calculating. She isn't just reacting with fear like a little minnow that darts away. She is actively trying to figure you out.
Sizing you up?
She's sizing you up. She's thinking, are you a threat? Or are you a big, clumsy animal that is going to kick up some sand and reveal some food for me to grab?
So she's asking, are you dangerous or are you a lunch lady?
She is. And they have personalities. Seriously. Scientists who study them can tell them apart not just by their patterns, but by their behavior. Some are bold and adventurous, constantly investigating new things. Others are shy and cautious and stick close to home. They are individuals.
I love that.
Yeah.
Queenie isn't just a fish, she's a person. Well, a fish person.
Hmm.
Let's talk about her family life then. Does Queenie have a king?
She does. The social structure is actually what we call a harem.
A harem. What does that mean for fish?
It means there is one big king male. He patrols a huge territory. And inside his big territory, there are several queens, maybe 3 or 4 females, who each have their own smaller castles or territories within his.
So he's like a landlord and they are his tenants.
In a way, he visits them like a king, touring his kingdom, checking in on them, making sure everything's okay. But when it comes to raising the kids, the queen is the real boss.
How so?
Most fish just spray their eggs and sperm into the water and then swim away. They basically say, good luck, babies, hope you make it. But not the queen. She builds a nursery.
She built it, like with little bricks and mortar.
She uses sand, and she uses that water blower mouth again. She blows a huge crater in the sand. I mean, it can be 3 feet wide. It's a massive construction project for a fish that is only a foot or 2 long.
That is a huge nest.
It is. She lays thousands of tiny eggs in the bottom of this crater. And then, and this is the key part, she does not leave. She stays there.
She's a stay-at-home mom.
She is a fierce guard dog. She hovers right over that nest. She uses her fins to constantly fan fresh, oxygenated water over the eggs to keep them healthy. And if anything comes near that nest,
Even a big human diver.
especially a human diver, she will attack. She does not care if you are 10 times her size. She will charge you and she will bite your fins. She'll bite your camera.
Wow. Note to self, do not mess with a queen triggerfish mom. She means business.
Absolutely. She is completely fearless when defending her young. And there is a magical connection to the moon here, too.
The moon. How does a fish know about the moon?
It's all about the tides. The spawning, which is the laying of the eggs, it almost always happens around the full moon.
Why the full moon? Is it for the romance? Or maybe the extra light?
It's for the flow. The tides are at their strongest during the full moon and the new moon. When the babies, which we call larvae, hatch, they are these tiny specks, totally helpless. If they stayed on the reef, all the other fish would eat them instantly. They'd be gone in an hour.
So they need to escape the reef as fast as possible.
Right. The strong tides of the full moon act like a giant conveyor belt. They sweep the newly hatched babies out of the reef and into the safety of the deep, open ocean very quickly.
Why do they want to go to the open ocean? Isn't that dangerous out there?
The reef is actually more dangerous for a tiny baby. There are just too many small males looking for a snack. The open ocean is vast and relatively empty. They float out there and they find these floating mats of seaweed called sargassum.
Sargassum. That's that yellow leafy seaweed that floats on the surface. I've seen that wash up on the beach.
Exactly. It's a floating nursery. The baby triggerfish live there for weeks or months, eating tiny plankton and hiding from birds in the thick weeds until they are big enough and strong enough to smell the reef and come back home to settle.
That is such an incredible journey from a crater in the sand, swept away by the moon tides, living on a floating seaweed raft, and then somehow finding their way all the way back home.
It really is an epic adventure. Now, I want to take you on a different kind of journey, a journey through time.
Ooh, time travel. I'm in. Are we going back to see the dinosaurs?
Close. Let's go back 20 million years to a time called the Miocene epoch. The ocean looked a bit different back then.
Okay, we are in the ancient ocean. What do we see?
We see a triggerfish, but it's not Creanie. We see her great-great-great. Well, you get the idea. Her grandmother, the Listus vigae.
Is she different from today's queen?
She is colossal. Modern queens are about 2 feet long at their absolute biggest. Ballistus vigae was up to 6 feet long.
A 6-foot triggerfish. That's taller than my dad.
It was a giant, and it had massive crushing teeth to break open giant prehistoric shells.
That is terrifying. Why did they get smaller? Usually being big is better in the animal kingdom.
Not always. Being smaller actually helps you hide better in the complex modern reef. It allows you to fit into those small holes we talked about at the very beginning. But the basic design, the locking spine, the tough armor, the independent eyes, it hasn't changed much in millions of years. It's a perfect design.
Why fix it if it isn't broken?
Exactly. If you have a perfect tank, you keep the tank. But speaking of time, there was a huge mystery for a long time about how long these fish actually live, right? This is a fascinating bit of science detective work. For a long, long time, scientists thought queen triggerfish lived about 7 to maybe 14 years.
That seems reasonable for a fish. I mean, dogs live about that long.
It seemed reasonable. They came up with that number by counting the rings on the dorsal spine, that big trigger spine, just like counting tree rings to see how old a tree is.
Makes sense. 1 ring for every year of growth.
But there was a big problem. The spine is on the outside of the body. It gets banged up, scraped against rocks when she's sleeping, and worn down by the water. The rings disappear. It was like trying to read a book where the first 10 chapters have been ripped out. You're missing a huge part of the story.
So they were guessing wrong because the evidence was literally disappearing over time.
Yes. So recently, scientists decided to look at something else. Something inside the fish's head. The otoliths. Otoliths. They are tiny little stones inside the fish's head in the inner ear. They help the fish with balance and hearing, and because they are safely tucked away inside the head, they don't get worn down. They are perfectly preserved.
So they counted the rings on the ear stones instead.
They did. But to be absolutely sure they were counting correctly, they used a special atomic clock. They used something called the bomb pulse.
Whoa, bomb pulse. That sounds intense. What does that mean?
It sounds scary, but for scientists, it's an incredibly useful tool. In the 1950s and 60s, humans did a lot of atmospheric nuclear testing. This put a specific chemical marker, a type of carbon, into the air and the ocean all around the world at a very specific time.
Okay, so it's like a stamp in the history of the world, a chemical signature that says 1960.
Exactly. Scientists can look for that marker in the layers of the earstone. It acts like a timestamp. It proves exactly when that layer of the stone was formed. It allows them to calibrate their ring counting perfectly.
That is incredible science, using world history to tell the exact age of a fish. So, what did they find? How old can Queenie actually get?
They found that queen triggerfish can live up to 40 years.
40 years. That's older than me. That's older than a lot of people.
Yes. That fish you see snorkeling on vacation might be older than your parents. It could have been born in the 1980s.
That changes everything. If they live that long, they must see so much change on the reef in their lifetime.
It does. And it means they grow up very slowly. And this brings us to a really important point. Why we need to protect them. If a fish takes that long to grow up and have babies, we have to be very careful about fishing for them.
Right. If you catch all the big ones, it takes decades for the population to come back. It's not like they just pop back up next year.
Exactly. And Queenie is what we call a keystone species.
Like the stone in the middle of an arch that holds the whole thing up. You pull that one stone out, the entire arch crashes down.
That is a perfect analogy. Remember those sea urchins she loves to eat?
The spiky pincushions.
So, urchins eat algae. And algae is a plant that grows on the reef. If there are too many urchins, they act like out-of-control lawnmowers. They scrape the reef so hard they damage the living coral structure, they literally eat the reef's foundation.
That's bad. You don't want your house foundation to be eaten.
But if there are too few urchins, the algae grows wild and it smothers the coral like a thick, slimy blanket blocking out the sunlight. That's also very bad.
So we need a Goldilocks situation. Not too many urchins, not too few. You need the number to be just right.
And Queenie is the one who keeps it just right. She eats just enough urchins to keep their population in check so the reef stays healthy. In fact, scientists see something called a blue halo around reefs where triggerfish live.
A blue halo? That sounds magical.
It looks magical. It's a ring of clean white sand around the patch of coral reef. The urchins are too scared to go out into that open sand because they know the queen is patrolling there looking for a meal.
That is amazing. Her presence literally shapes the landscape around her. She draws a line in the sand that the urchins won't cross.
She does. She is the guardian of the coral.
But humans eat them too, right? I think I've heard people call them turbard in some places.
Yes, they are a popular food fish in many parts of the Caribbean. The meat is supposed to be delicious, but there is a potential danger. Because Queenie eats high up the food chain, she can accumulate toxins in her body.
Toxins, you mean like poison?
It's a natural poison called ciguatera. It comes from a tiny type of algae. The little fish eat the algae, the bigger fish eat the little fish, and Queenie eats them all. And that toxin builds up in her body over those 40 years.
And if a human eats a big old Queenie,
You can get very, very sick. It affects your nerves. It can make cold water feel hot and hot water feel cold. It's very unpleasant and can last a long time. So in many places, people avoid eating the big old queens.
which is actually good for conservation.
It is. Let the grandmas live. They're too toxic to eat anyway.
Exactly. Let them stay on the reef and lay their eggs.
But they are also used in medicine. In places like Brazil, traditional folk medicine uses triggerfish oil and skin to treat things like asthma and earaches.
It's amazing how connected we are to this one fish. But I know they are in trouble. What's their conservation status? Is Queenie doing okay?
She is struggling a bit. She is listed as near threatened or vulnerable in many areas.
Why? Is it just the fishing?
Overfishing is the big one, especially when people take those big moms who are guarding their nests, but also coral bleaching. If the coral dies because the water gets too hot, Queenie loses her fortress, her home,
And plastic pollution.
and plastic pollution. Remember the babies floating in the seaweed?
Yeah, the floating nursery.
They sometimes mistake tiny bits of plastic for food. That is a huge problem for so many young ocean animals.
That is absolutely heartbreaking. Is there any good news? I really want to have some hope for Queenie.
There is. The good news is that marine protected areas work really, really well for them.
Those are like national parks for the ocean, right?
Mhm.
Where no fishing is allowed.
Exactly. In places like St. Croix and Barbados, scientists have found that when you protect a reef, the triggerfish stay there and they get big and healthy again. Because they don't travel very far, they're homebodies. They are relatively easy to protect. If you save their home, you save the queen.
That makes me really hopeful. If we just give them a safe space, they can recover. So let's recap this incredible story we've explored today.
We met an engineer who builds castles in the sand and moves rocks with a water jet.
We met a warrior with a locking shield on her back that works like a medieval crossbow.
A mathematician who solves physics problems just to flip over her dangerous dinner.
A fierce mom who guards her nest against giants and has a deep connection to the moon.
And a time traveler who carries the secrets of the ocean for 40 years, surviving everything from nuclear testing to changing tides.
She really is the sovereign of the reef. I will never look at a picture of a coral reef the same way again. I'll be looking for that electric blue war paint.
Me too. And here is a final thought for our listeners to take with them today.
What's that?
Think about Queenie's eyes. One looking forward, searching for opportunity and for food. And one looking backward, watching for danger and for protection. She sees two worlds at once. What would you watch if you could look forward and backward at the exact same time?
That is deep, I think. I'll probably watch where I'm going, but also where I've been, so I don't forget where I came from.
A very wise choice.
Thank you all so much for exploring the reef with us today. We really hope you loved meeting Queenie as much as we did.
It was an absolute pleasure. Keep exploring.
See you next time on Saltwater Stories.